Hello and welcome to the References page video. I will guide you in creating APA 7th edition style reference entries and a references page. If you would like to skip ahead or move backward in this video, use the table of contents located below the video. Closed captioning can be turned on by clicking the CC icon located on the bottom right of the video. The main topics covered in this video are why create a reference page, how to create a reference entry, and how to create the references page. A references page is a list of all the sources used in your paper, and each reference listed corresponds with an in-text citation in the body of your paper. Reference pages make up an important component of your paper, providing the reader with detailed information about the sources cited in the paper. Following APA's guidelines for listing your sources on the references page will help you communicate with your audience details such as the author, date, and URL for sources you have used. The information should be detailed enough that if your reader needed or wanted, they could locate the sources themselves. Although APA provides many guidelines for creating individual reference entries based on the type of source, such as website, journal article, or book, common information you will need for many types of sources includes the author names, date, title, publisher, page range, and URL or digital object identifier, or DOI. During your research process, save the full text of all your sources, either as digital or paper copies, so that you can use them to create the reference entries. For the next few minutes, I'll overview examples of reference entries based on common types of sources. See the APA Publication Manual 7th edition for much more detailed information and additional types of sources or variation. A periodical is a category of source that includes journals, magazines, newspapers, newsletters, and blogs. Typically, you will need to cite one article in an issue of a periodical. The general template for a periodical is author's last name and initials, date, article's title, title of periodical, volume and issue number, page numbers, and digital object identifier or URL. Now let's look at the fine details of formatting, such as capitalization, italics, periods, parentheses, and commas in an example of an academic journal article. To format the author's names, begin with the last name followed by first initials with a period after each initial. In this example, there are two authors, so they are separated by an ampersand. The date, which is typically just the year, but for newspapers and magazines, you may also need to include the day or month, goes in parentheses with a period outside of the parentheses. Next, the title of an article is formatted with only the first letter of the first word capitalized and the first letter after a colon capitalized. There is no underlining, italics, or quotation marks used for the title of an article. End with a period. Next is the italicized title of the periodical with each significant word capitalized, followed by a comma. Next, the volume number in italics. If there is an issue number, include that not in italics, but in parentheses, followed by a comma. Next, if there are page numbers, include the page range followed by a period. And finally, include the digital object identifier, the DOI, or the URL formatted as a link. If you are not familiar with the term DOI, it is a combination of numbers and letters unique to a source that provides a stable link to a source's location on the internet. In APA 7th edition, you must include the DOI for any source that is assigned a DOI. You can find the DOI with the rest of the publication information. If no DOI exists, you should include the URL. If neither exists, simply omit this part of a citation. Now that I have pointed out the fine details of formatting, in the remaining examples you should be able to identify it yourself. I will only point out formatting, such as italics or capitalization, if it differs significantly from the precedent set by this example. For books, the basic order is the author name, year, title of the book, which is italicized, publisher's name, and DOI or URL. In this first example, the book cited was in its second edition, so that information was also included in parentheses immediately after the book's title. Also note that the DOI is formatted as a hyperlink, which is acceptable. The second example is a classical text published online. Note that a translator is included, the URL, and a note with the original publication year. Edited books and reference works have editors for the entire book and also authors of individual sections. You may only need to cite one chapter, entry, or section in an edited book, and here's how to do that. The basic order is the name of the author of the chapter you cite, date, title of the chapter or reference entry, the word in followed by the initials and last name of the editor, and ed period in parentheses. Title of the book followed by the page numbers of the chapter in parentheses, the publisher, and the DOI or URL. Here's an example. Note that this example has two authors, like the periodical example we just discussed. Also note that the edited book is a second edition, and there is no DOI or URL. Web pages and websites can be tricky because there are many different kinds of websites. For other types of web sources, such as social media or YouTube, refer to the APA publication manual. The basic order is author, date, title of work, site name, URL or the retrieval date, and the URL. Let's consider two examples. In this example, note that the author is an organization, the U.S. Census Bureau. No date was included on the website, so N period D period is included in place of a date. Because the information on this website may change at any point, the retrieval date is included before the URL. In this next example, the site name and the author name are the same, so the site name is omitted. Now that we've covered the basics on how to create individual reference entries in APA style, let's review the guidelines for putting the entries together on the References page. References always start on a new page with a page number after the body of your paper. Double space all the text. The references title should be placed at the center top of the page and in bold. If you are writing a paper to submit for publication or your professor requires it, include your running head. Sources should be organized in alphabetical order by last name. The first line of a source is aligned to the left, and the remaining lines are indented. See our formatting guide for a step-by-step guide on creating what's called a hanging indent. Let's review what this video has covered. Reference pages make up an important component of your paper, providing the reader vital information about the sources cited in the paper, such as where the source can be found. The conventions of reference entries are dependent on the type of source. This means that a book citation looks a little different from a website citation. As such, it is important to save source material as you write and research, and have a sense of the similarities and differences with common types of sources, such as periodicals, books, journal articles, and websites. Finally, the reference page is always the last section of your paper and has specifications for formatting. Remember, for additional resources, visit our website, linked in the description. U of L community members can also visit the University Writing Center in person or virtually for help with references or APA style. Download our handouts on APA style from our website and read our frequently asked questions. We recommend these two related to citation. What does it mean to cite using MLA, APA, or Chicago styles? And how can I avoid plagiarizing? Thank you for listening and good luck with your writing.